Our next guest is a politician actively seeking public office. Just a quick note that this interview is not an endorsement of any kind. However, if you live in Prince George's County, Maryland, this information might be helpful with the primary election that's coming up on June 23, 2026. Just a side note, I do not live in this county. I don't have a dog in this hunt. But if you are not a resident of that county, keep listening or watching, especially if you're curious about how you can make a difference in your own community through public service. You can find out his story here. That's all. That's the disclaimer. It's time to meet our guest.
Hello, my name is Marcellus Cruz. I'm a child of the King. I was born in Ocala, Florida, raised in Huntsville, Alabama, went to the only predominantly co-ed boarding school in Pennsylvania, the illustrious Pine Forge Academy. But bigger than that, I've been all about people, service. I received the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award on service because I'm all about giving back. That's what we're here for. We're not here for ourselves. So when you think of Cruz, because that's what everybody calls me, think that's somebody who gives back, and he's genuine about it. I don't really care about the accolades.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, you are running
Hmm.
to be the county executive of Prince
Prince
George's
George's
County
County. That's
in
right.
Maryland.
There you go.
Yes. So take me back to the moment where you first seriously considered running for office.
Oh.
What was happening in your life? Another question to add to that, like, is this something that you thought about as a child? Did your
Mm,
parents ever tell you this?
mm.
Did where did this come from? What was happening in your life when you seriously started thinking about running for office?
All right. So let me start there where I was when I started seriously thinking about it. I've always teased my staff. I run my own company called Cruising Technologies, and we were in the process of working with a rehabilitation company and looking at providing services for container homes. We was about to build, but the container homes was going to look like regular homes.
Like the
We
shipping containers?
a shipping container. So I also am an architectural designer, and I was designing what these would look like, and we were also designing them around the zoning issues, not being labeled, being labeled a regular housing development, right? And so I was in the process of that, and I think Ben Cardin had decided not to run for re-election for the U.S. Senate, and I just kind of blurted out in front of some of my staff, I should run for, you know, and nobody laughed. Everybody was like, "Ooh, that's an idea." And I was like, "Now, how come y'all are, why y'all talking like that?" And they were like, "No, we've always seen you that way. You've always carried yourself in that manner. You always talking about policy. You never miss the State of the Union. That's your sports." And I never realized that my staff had taken notice to how I am. I've always followed politics. And so here they are saying, "No, you should." So I come home and I tell my wife about what had happened. And I don't know, I think it was that evening, she sits me down and she says, "I don't want you to say anything. I know how you are. Quick on your feet. Just hear me out. You've been a youth leader. You speak all the time at church, not just our church. You're always a guest speaker at different churches. Even when I go home with her, I speak at her church. You speak at events. You've done a lot of civic work." And her thing was, "But you think differently, and you're in the area that our government needs experts in. What would you do different? Just think about that for a day and come back to me." And so I thought about it for a day, and I came back to her and I said, "Okay, if I were running for office, I would speak to how the economy is with hiring and job process. It's not really about college educated, it's about certifications. And then, so I would ramp that up, and I would ramp that up more than they're ramping up minimum wage. And so I kind of went into that, and then I went into a couple other areas of how we can bring prosperity. And so she was like, "You got to run that. You can't sit on this because I haven't heard anybody talk like that." And so I said, "Oh, wait a minute now, hold on. The business is finally doing what it needs to do, and you're talking about this." And so she says, "No, you got to really take this on. And what's next?" So I was like, "Well, I haven't been in politics. Nobody knows Marcellus Cruz in politics." So we made a list of people we needed to sit down and talk to, and none of them blew us off. None of them blew me off. They were like, "I love everything you're talking about. If nothing else, you're going to change the conversation." So I then, in in a matter of, I don't know, a couple months, told my staff what I was going to do. And I went and signed up, and I jumped in the US Senate race. And I wanted to see my athleticism because I'm always throwing stuff at the TV and I'm upset. You could have said this, you could have said that. And I'll never forget my first debate. Angela Alsobrooks, David Trone, a couple others. And it was, I think cameras was there and all this kind of stuff. My first ever debate. And it was recorded. But
Those are some heavy hitters.
you're right, those were some heavy hitters. But and a lot of people don't know this. I My younger years, me and Angela grew up as young professionals living next door to each other. So if you ever
Okay.
ran into her and you say Marcellus Cruz, she was like, that was my next door neighbor.
Oh,
So
wow.
we got to know each other then. So it's like we're not strangers. But the point is, when she saw me, she was like, "I didn't know you were in." I said, "I'm not coming for you." you know, I'm just, and so later on, she's like, I get it. But anyway, I held my own, and everybody was shocked. I mean, even the people that put on the debate was like, "We didn't know about you, but now we know about you. You're on the radar."
If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know, right? Because I came at things differently, and I think it's time for new voices and new ideas. So that's where my life was when that happened. Growing up, I used to joke around. I'm the king with my brothers and sisters.
Is it like a Muhammad Ali, I'm a king,
Well,
or
no, it was more like ruler. Like I'm the ruler, and these are the policies, and this is what I'm putting in place. And as I got older, God, I told you about the boarding school that I attended.
Mhm. Oh
I
yeah, I'm
became the
familiar with Pine Forge.
Okay. I became the first sophomore RA, and usually RAs are juniors and seniors. And the deans saw something in me and made me the first sophomore RA. And, throughout school, I was always a part of some kind of way, a part of student government. And then I was pre-law, that then changed to computer science because my advisor was like, "Why are you pre-law?" I was like, "I want to go into politics." "You don't need law to go into politics, but you're gifted in computers." And so he was like, "That doesn't come easy to everybody." And so I wanted to get out. And so, so I took the path of computers, and I'm happy that I did. I'm glad that I did because, to be honest, I'm in the forefront of where we're going, what we're doing today, and I can speak directly to that. I can speak directly to all of the pressure points and what we should be doing and how we should be doing it. So
Because it
yeah,
sounds like whatever perspective that you have, your perspective that you have now, it would have been totally different if you didn't take that path, the path of computers, as opposed to
yes.
the the typical path. I don't know if I want to call it the typical path
It's the typical path. No, it's the
or
typical. You go through that, and then I think you get molded by the system, and you start protecting the system versus reforming the system. Uh, it's just a different way of looking. It's any job is that way. If you grow up in TV, and you're always in that, you're at the meetings, then daddy or mommy gets you involved and you become an executive. Well, you grew up in it. You see how they've done it before. You may add some new little nuances, but you're going to protect the system. You're not going to come in and go, "Ah, I'm reforming this, because you don't know what reform looks like. You've been molded by the system. It's not to say that no, people that have been molded by the system can't reform it. It just depends on where they started. Because I'll take Bernie Sanders. He's trying to reform the system, but if you look at where he started, he was never really in the system. He calls himself, you know, I mean, you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
He,
I
he,
just I have the picture in my mind of him as a youngster getting arrested. And that's the picture that when you say he's not of the system, that's the automatic image that comes to my mind.
Well, and so that's my point. Even though he's in the system, he's always been fighting against it, and that's why he got into it. But then there's others who come the typical way and they get molded, and you can tell in their speech, you can tell the way they talk, you can tell what their vision is, you can tell about the buzzwords that they use. They've been molded by the system. I don't use most of those buzzwords at all. And activist sat me down and said, "Can you please just use a little bit of them so that way my people can know that you're one of us?"
Wait, who told you that?
An activist.
Oh, it actually, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
an activist. She says to me, her name is Amber. She says, older woman, she says, "Listen, I love all your ideas and I believe that you're the future. But just add a couple of our buzzwords so that people understand that you understand what we were fighting for, but this is now you're going to bridge it to somewhere else."
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
yeah,
So you still
so
have to know how to speak the language, even
yeah, you have
though,
to learn a little bit of the language, right?
right?
And then now, and I believe that that is what I have done now,
Mhm.
and I believe I'm in a good place now.
Okay. Now, during your years with cruising technology, how many years have you had your company? Have you run your company
16
or owned it?
years.
16, you said?
16. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And so 16 years, a whole lot can happen in 16 years. What throughout your professional journey
Hmm.
led you to this? I know you said your coworkers or your team
Hmm.
members,
Hmm.
the people that you lead did
Hmm.
not laugh you out of the room when you
Right.
said when you were
Right.
joking and said, I should run, I should run for Senate.
Right.
But are there any other points along the way that
Yes.
kind of put this pathway together or put the cobblestones in this path?
No, you're absolutely right. So a lot of people don't know this, but I was in the singing group, two girls, three guys, a vocal band. And we did a lot of stuff in politics, singing at events. That led me to meeting different elected officials. And when I would meet them, and I have old pictures meeting different people. When I would meet them, I would talk policy. I'll never forget, I met Lindsey Graham. This was years ago, and we talked policy. And so people around me would hear me talk policy and they would go, "Oh, Cruz is, he understands what's going on." Inside of that, we started acquiring embassies, and that's all politics.
When you say acquiring embassies, what do you mean?
With doing their technology.
Ah, okay, okay.
And when you take over their technology, that is their data, that is their communications, that's everything. And so you begin to interface between them and the US. And so that really gave me education. It gave me a lot of education on how deals are done, how policy is done. And then now hanging out with more elected officials, sparring about policy. And then the policy that I love to talk about, education. I love to talk about workforce development, returning citizens. I love talking about the economy. How do you turn those things around? And so when you're working with them and for them, because what is government? Government is keeping us safe and services. Most people don't understand, government is this big thing. No, government is keeping us safe in services. That's it.
And
And
government only exists because of us, the people.
the people, because we need these services, right?
Mhm.
And we need to be safe as we're getting these services. That's government. And everybody makes it into this big thing. No, government is simple. It should be simple. The difference between the private sector and the public sector is the private sector is trying to make money. Okay. And they're trying to squeeze every cent. Well, the public sector is they're trying to provide services and not trying to break you, the citizen, right? They're trying to keep taxes low. And that's the difference. But the problem that we see is companies provide good services, and then the government is providing poor services. And everybody thinks that that's okay. That's not okay. And you should not vote for someone who's been in government all these years giving poor services and someone who's been in the private sector giving great services. You should put that person in because they're going to reform how those services are given. Government is not doing services differently because it's government. They're providing the same service. I'll give an example.
Mhm.
Our mailing system.
Right.
Amazon shouldn't come along and reform it and show a better mailing system, right? You order something, you receive it, within the days that they say, and boom, and there's a picture and showing you this is at your house. All of that, that should be on the government side as well. I mean, why do we think government should be less? No, that's keeping us safe. It should be on par, if not better. Because when you think Pentagon, when you think our security services, you think up here, right? Well, every service should be up here. And that is why my wife was like, you need to be in these conversations because
Mhm.
you can speak to that clearly because you've worked on both sides.
And when she gave you homework,
Yes.
24 hours later, or however long it was later, what
24
did you
hours.
tell her? 24 hours later, what did you tell her? How did you report back to your wife?
Um, at the time in the news, there was a lot of talk about breaches
Mm,
in our technology systems. There was a lot of discussion about jobs, where's the economy going, and I broke that down. I was expressing how we need to innovate, right? How we need to think about jobs differently. We're still talking like jobs are back in 1960, and don't get me wrong, anybody listening to this, I believe that minimum wage should be at a good place, right? But that is not the real fight. I think we've been missing the real fight. The real fight is that we had over, in the state of Maryland, we had over 150,000 jobs not filled that were paying, 60,000 and above, six figures, all the way to six figures. And companies didn't fill those jobs. And the government didn't fill some of their jobs. Why? Because people were not certified.
So it
So
had nothing to do with their budgets or anything like that. It was because they just couldn't find the people qualified to fill those roles.
qualified to fill those roles. Now, what is a certification? Do I need my GED to get that certification? No. That's how deep it is. You don't need IT people have been living in this world for now a couple decades, right?
Mhm.
And we're looked at as white collar. We're
Mhm.
looked at as the cream of the crop, right? I mean,
Mhm.
and and
'Cause,
most
look,
of the
y'all keep things moving.
we keep things moving. And a lot of those people are certified in different areas. And what does that mean? That means that they went and they took a course that gave them the practicum, as well as the other side, right? Because you have to know both sides when you get a certification. What does that mean? You got to be able to speak the language and you got to know what you're talking about when it comes to hardware. So it's software and hardware, right? That you need to know. And so you're going through that, right? When you're getting that certification. When you get that certificate, you know your stuff. At least you're supposed to. And so that means you can start day one. Now, you graduate from college, they're going to be asking you How much experience do you have? You know, and you can't start on day one. But somebody's certified, they can start on day one. They already understand the language, they already understand what's happening. And if they got their certification from a really good school, they would have been dealing with industry leaders in that. So from cybersecurity on down to just help desk, they would have been dealing with industry leaders, people who know how and what you should look for. And so a lot of, and when I say certifications, I'm not just talking to IT, I'm talking about HVAC. I'm talking about plumbing. These are certifications you can get. I'm talking about dental hygienists, talking about, you know, becoming a nurse's assistant. These are certifications, paralegal. We right now we're just out of whack with what the economy and where it's taking us. AI, everybody's all scared about it. I was explaining to her, AI is just a tool. It's just manipulating data quicker and faster. That's all AI is. And if we do this right, we'll create the next jobs. And so I was just kind of laying that out for her. And I was laying out housing. How do you do housing better? I'm big on walkable commerce hubs. Now when I say that, everybody's like, walkable commerce hubs. I'm like, I should be able to come home, put on some new shoes, some sneakers, grab the dog and go walking in my community where
To the
I
grocery
can
store
go to the grocery
to
store
grab a
or
bundle of
shop,
carrots or whatever you
go get a
need.
salad or go get my hair cut because it's right there. $2 trillion was made last year in our economy on walkable commerce hubs. And so my thing, I was explaining to her, that's where technology is leading us, and we need to do more of these type of urban centers because businesses grow quicker and faster. They create more jobs. Our education system, we need to start letting sixth graders start getting certifications. This is what I was telling her. I
Mhm.
said, if we start at sixth grade, not 11th and 12th, because that's right now in our system, you have to wait until you're in 11th and 12th grade to get a certification. And then you're not even using it. You're asked afterwards, what do you want to do?
So,
Well,
okay, so a person who starts getting certifications at sixth grade,
yeah, come on with
they're
it.
not going to be working because, like, where are
Well,
they going to work?
so watch this. Watch it.
Mhm.
Because listen, I do these forums all the time. I give these speeches all the time.
I know you hear the
Uh,
same
you're
questions.
right, right. So I'm gonna give it to you like this. I
Like, you
do
do your
this.
math homework and then you go to work. Like, what?
Well, no, 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 no. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a second pathway, right?
Right, right.
And in our school system,
Mhm.
not everybody's going to college. And when a woman asked me, "Are you sure about sixth grade?" I get off the from speaking, and she asked me afterwards. She was like, "I love everything you're saying, but are you sure about sixth grade?" I said, "Ma'am, sixth graders are dropping out of school and joining gangs, and they're learning that whole apparatus." She said, "Say no more." You're right. The second thing is in sixth grade, they should be getting customer service certifications. It's like seven or eight of them. They should be getting project management certifications and application certifications and coding certifications. There's just so many certifications that get them started, right? So by the time they get to ninth and 10th grade, they're getting the bigger certifications, depending on what your track is. If you want to become a doctor, all right, let's go get the med tech or the nursing certification, right? So now that you can go work at a clinic or a hospital or wellness center, and you can start your process, right, of understanding what actually happens in your field. You're going to be ahead of your counterparts who are just going through school.
And you still have to get work experience for high school in order to graduate, correct? Okay. And that
You
way
got to
you can
still get
be
work
earning money.
experience, but bigger than that,
Uh-huh.
now you're graduating having been seen by companies. My thing is to bring companies to our education system the same way we do for sports, right? And so scholastically, now you're being seen by these companies. That's opportunity. That's what's been lacking from our education system. And that's been lacking from companies curating their own pipeline, right? So we're killing several birds with one stone. So if you put the second pathway in our education system, now that kid might say, you know what, I just want to be a content creator, or I just want to be go into HVAC, right, and start my own company, or work for a company and then start my own company. Well, you can do that. And let me tell you, I have friends who are in HVAC and they make six figures. All of them, not some of
Because you know what's
them.
running today? HVAC systems.
There you go. And those friends, now some of my friends miss the technology piece, but the ones who received it are making a lot more money because technology is now in HVAC. You can't even put in the HVAC system now without it being smart, you know. And so it's important that we start our kids out sooner. They will innovate. They will help us understand the next jobs of tomorrow when you do that, when you engage with them like that. And so these are the things that I was explaining to her. And so she was just like, you're hitting on things that they're not really talking about. And so I was telling her a senator, a congressman, they have aides that understand technology, but there's no substitute for somebody who truly understands it, who can sit in a meeting. I don't need an aide. I can
Right.
sit in on
That's
that
what you that's
meeting,
what you do.
and
That's what
right,
you've
and
been
I
doing
can
for a long
say, you know
time.
what, you're pulling my leg, man. That doesn't cost that. And these are the items that you need to add to that because I've innovated. I've done a visa passport system between our government and another country. I've dealt with immigration and all of these things. When you build those type of systems, you learn what these policies are all about and how to help them flow better, right?
Mhm.
And that informs. But the point I'm making is you need someone who understands that in the room.
Okay. So someone who understands technology,
Mhm.
the education piece, the
Mhm.
second pathway. So to be clear, you're not saying or talking down about getting college degrees. It's just another way to help our children become responsible citizens and who support
8.5%.
themselves.
8.5% dropped out of our school system in 20, I think it's 2024 or 2025, whichever
Oh,
it was.
wow, that's a lot.
That's over 10,000 kids. Okay. And those 10,000 kids end up where? 60% of them end up in juvenile detention. And then they get
Wow.
into this revolving circle. Imagine if we could have caught them sooner. Now, how do I know if we catch them sooner, they'll stay in school? Because there's a company that I interface with called build.org, build.org, who've been doing what I'm talking about in high schools for the last 25, something, 30 years or something like that. And they expressed to me that I'm on the right track. And here's the statistics that I can use. Well, when they come into a school system, graduation rates go from wherever they are, 77% or 78% to 96%, because now kids feel engaged. And now you're getting that population that don't want to go to college. They see themselves going somewhere else. And so now you're meeting everybody where they are. And that's what we have to do. So that's my program is called the Prepared Professional,
Mhm.
and it replaces vocational and trade. I don't even like those words because they
Why
come
not?
off, and we know the stigma, the historic stigma. They come off as blue collar,
Mhm.
and certifications nowadays are white collar. So the prepared professional, once you get a certification, you're a professional.
What's wrong with like blue collar? If the collar is paying you and you are and you,
I,
like what who cares about the collar? That's
I,
just me. That's just
Well,
me.
yeah, no, and I hear you, but our parents, our families, even society, we place these labels to put hierarchies in,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And my
Very true.
goal is to show that when this kid gets their certification, they are right here on par with what
Mhm.
you thought of as college grad. Actually, this person is actually going to go into the field that they study and work in that field
Hmm.
and make good money, and they can continue getting more certifications and grow. You know, there's not just this one way to do it. That's the goal.
All right.
Yeah.
Expanding the way we think about that. Now, I'm going to ask you about what other another question about what you were thinking. Do you ever have any doubts that this is the right decision that you're making? Like, did you have any doubts before you started to run? And then, if so, because maybe you didn't have any, how did you work through those?
So I don't have doubts about can I be effective? Should I be in politics? Do I bring something different to the table? Those are not my doubts. I've always known that I could bring something different to the table. Uh, I go speak out a lot. And then different people come up to me and they'll say, I love your speech, or I love where your mind is taking things, and we need new voices. And some people go as far as to say, and this is how I know that how they see me. You look like Barack Obama and Martin Luther King had a baby. No lie. I mean, we've heard that quite a bit. Um, but what they're really,
Laughing because I can see that.
oh, now you can see.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Ooh, calm down, calm down. Oh, that was funny. Okay, back to what you were saying.
um, but what they're really saying is we see where you're coming from, and we see something deeper in where you're coming. It's not a career for you. You seem to be passionate and real about it. And that's really what they're really saying to me. And I get that. What causes me to question things are voters, right? We ask for change. We ask for someone to step up. Can someone step up? Bring me change. And then that person steps up and we don't really listen. We go with what we know. Well, this person has the name recognition and then they have the most money. So I'm going with this person. But you just asked for change. You asked for somebody to step up and I'll give them a chance. And you literally say that, and then you turn around and do the simple behavior. And so that's what gives me pause, a lot of times. I know I have to do my work, but even when I'm doing my work, I'm in these conversations and I'm showing them change. I'm telling them, hey, this is where we can take things. And they're like, okay, yeah, no, I hear it. But is that realistic? I'm like, what do you mean is it realistic? Are you not doing that in your life right now? Yeah, but this is government. No, government doesn't change. You're allowing us to get poor services because you're saying it's the government. What are we saying? You just said I want change, I want efficiency, I want accountability, I want predictability and stability, and then we talk about it, and now you're scared that it may not happen, right?
So, how do you get through that though? Or how are you trying to get through that? Because if people are used to poor services, but it's what they're used to because it's familiar and
That's
it's
right.
predictable,
That's right. That's right.
but they say they want some other form of familiarity or predictability as
Mhm.
far as better services go. But the predictability, the habit is poor service. So, how do you get people to break out of that? Or what are you trying to do to get people to break out of that?
Well,
We are creatures of habit and we like to know what we know.
well, and you're right. I think grassroots is probably the most powerful way to get through that. Going door to door, speaking with people. Because now they can look you in the eyeballs. They can listen to you. They can understand your story, and you can understand their story. And when you speak to people directly like that, it translates when you're now talking to someone like you, and I'm talking about what are my fixes, right? Because now I know a lot of stories in my head, and they know that I'm talking to them. I'm not just talking concepts, I'm talking to their needs. And so that is what I'm doing now. and just pretty much finished up a good tour. Doesn't mean I'm done, everyone. I mean, if you want me to come to your community or to your event, I shall and will. But the point here is I believe grassroots, shaking hands and talking to people direct, which is very tough. It's very tough because everybody has their own view on what needs to happen and change, right? And you got to meet them where they are. But that's the work, right?
Right. And no
That's
matter
what I
what,
come up.
someone is going to be unhappy.
Somebody is
Someone's going to
gonna,
have something to say.
and that's the other part that you have to get used to,
Right.
understanding that you can't sway everyone. Everyone is going to have their own opinion. And you could be saying what they want you to say, but they're like, man, you didn't say it the way I said it. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with that. And you have to focus on your coalition. And that's what I've learned. Focus on your coalition. Try to get as many in the tent and grassroots. That's how you get there. So the way I'm speaking now is from learning people and spending time with them on their issues. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And let's see, what did okay, so you said your wife, you did your homework, came back to your wife,
Mm-hmm.
and she's on board.
Mm-hmm.
What about your friends, trusted confidants, other people in your close circle?
That's the part you have to be careful about. Um, Trusted friends, they jumped on board immediately. Then you have those friends who are, oh yeah, that would be great, but are you sure? Oh, but they have all these questions, and they're legitimate questions. But the question always comes back, how does change come? I mean, or how do you get involved in these things, because some people will try to talk you out of it. I mean, oh, you shouldn't do that. I mean, you're gonna be putting yourself out there, and then what about the business, and what about the this, and what about the that? And doubting Thomases. We
Mm,
all have a bunch of doubting Tom. I could have been talking about I'm gonna go and I'm gonna change my career and I'm gonna become a plumber.
mm,
Doubting Thomases
mm.
or a dime a dozen, right? And so you have to sift through that, and decide, who to listen to. But I had a lot of support starting out. I had a lot of support. Even my mom. My mom was like, out of all my kids, you're the one that would you telling me this? I'm almost like about time.
Wow, that's what mom said? Wow.
No, that's what she said. She was like, I
Wow.
mean, you have it in you.
Mhm.
She was like, out of all my kids, she's like, now if, so and so showed up, I'd be like, no. But
That's not their lane. She
that's
knows your lane.
she was like, you have an ability,
Mhm.
you have all of the this was her words. You have all the tools that a great politician would need. And so I was humbled by it because my mom is a great woman. She was the first of a lot of things, and she was skipped twice in grade school, so she's very smart. Got her master's and her PhD, and helped put her 11, as many of them as she could of her siblings through school
Oh, go
herself.
ahead, mom.
So and then mom worked for the government. She was part of Bill Clinton's first faith-based initiative
Okay.
team.
Mhm.
And she became one of the first women officers in the Adventist church.
Mhm.
So mom has been there, done that, traveled all of my growing up years, and all over the world. And so for mom to say that to me, that meant a lot. It meant a lot. Yeah.
And speaking of mom, like the way you were raised and the way
Mhm.
you were brought up,
Mhm.
um, how did that influence
Mm.
uh this decision or your leadership style or help develop it? Because I believe we're all born with certain innate qualities, but if they're not if they're not grown and watered and tended to, then, then I believe where people are missing out on a lot of potential because you don't necessarily water and grow your kids. So how talk about your upbringing and how that influenced this moment where you are right now.
So I've said this to people in forums and the like in speeches. After my mom, got where she wanted and she started having kids, here I am, I'm matriculating.
Mhm.
And they noticed that in first, second, and third grade, I'm not getting great grades.
Hmm.
And by third grade, I'm now getting D's and F's.
Oh, wow.
And my mom quickly recognized that this was not a learning disability. This was something more than that.
Hmm.
It had to deal with social. Uh, and so she went to my fourth grade teacher, the toughest teacher in the school system at the time, and she talked to her, and that teacher saw something in me. To this day, I keep up with her in this Paraway, but she saw something in me, a spark, and she immediately put me in place. I learned how to memorize a lot, and I got in the choir. And before you know it, socially, I was doing better, and I went from D's and F's to A's. And the plays that she would put me in, I was Dr. Martin Luther King, so I had to learn his speeches. Uh, so, you know,
All the puzzle pieces.
at an early age, my mom affected, and not just my mom, my dad as well. My dad was a veteran. And at home, he would spar with me at an early age. He would say a word and like, do you know what that word means? And then you had to either go look it up or say what the word meant. And then we would have philosophical conversations. And so he got me out of all my siblings, we were the ones who did that. And he would get me to think outside the box, to never stay status quo, to always push the envelope on ideas and thoughts and philosophy
What's an example of something that you remember that really stands out?
let's see. Well, we can go religious here
Mhm.
because I grew up in a spiritual home.
Mhm.
My dad was very strict. He was the enforcer. And he didn't want certain music being played. He wanted certain things to happen when they happen. And because like keep in mind, you're raising a son and you're telling him to push the boundaries, ask questions, and get philosophical about it. And so
Mm.
one day I sat him down and I talked to him about music. I talked to him about religious uh, traditions that he forced on the house. And I was explaining to him the spiritual aspect of it, you know, and how things should be. I went there with him.
Mhm.
And that dove into his parenting. Because think
Okay.
about it. If you
Was he
look
also raised in
at
a religious home?
see, that's the thing. He grew up differently, and so when he came to Christ, it transformed him, and he didn't want his kids to repeat what he came up in or through. And so, that's what I learned about him as we were having these conversations. But, it was so deep because my dad got really sensitive in that conversation. My siblings don't really realize how close me and my dad became, but he got so sensitive and teared up and said, what you're doing is you're pushing me to deal with the past and the present. And he was like, see, you grew up differently. You know, and I'm glad that you did not take on everything that I put out there. you learned that there's a reason why I'm doing these things. And so you look past that and you receive what you needed, and then you thought past that. Now you're able to come back to me, and we're able to spar respectfully. Because he was like, "You're being very, a son coming to a father saying, Dad, you should be doing this or that. What about this?" And how. It was deep for him. And so he was just like, had I been raised the way you were raised, I believe I would see the world the way you see it. And so, and he was thankful that I saw the new world and not the world that he was brought up in, and that he brought us up in, right?
Mhm. Pushing
Because
the
he didn't want to
boundaries.
repeat
Mhm.
anything of the past. And so, anyway, the point is that was a very deep conversation. And he even said, I'm going to, moving forward, watch how I am with you guys. I just want the best for you guys. So if you knew my dad, he was not the guy who changed.
Mhm.
He was not the guy. If my siblings were on here, they'd be like, oh, he's not that guy.
Mhm.
It's this way, and that's how it is, because he was a military guy.
Right, right.
And so it's this way, and this is how you do it. And there was no in between, but for him to come out of that conversation and say, you know what, I'm gonna try to change how I am was very deep,
Wow.
was very deep.
Wow, that is fantastic.
But that informs me, I guess, today,
Hmm.
how we have to be. And that informs me on how I'm even dealing with constituents
Right.
and potential voters. You
Hmm.
have to take the time out to get to know them.
Right.
Because when you do, you can change their heart and mind.
Hmm. But you have to get to know them.
You
You
got to
have to
get
be
to,
willing
there's something,
to
and
engage
God will,
them and ingest their ideas and actually think about them
they
and not
wouldn't
just see
know.
them as people to cast a vote.
That's right. And that's how the rest, and so I'm playing this game, and it's a game. Politics is a game. It's a sport. It's become a sport. That the other ones are doing flybys, and they're just dropping leaflets, right? And I got a name. I've been in office. You don't look at what I did, but here's the leaflets, and here I'm trying to bring change. And so I have to spend that time to bring change, with people so that they see and hear that I see them, I get them, and this is why I'm saying what I'm saying now. And I'm gonna say I said this somewhere and people didn't know where I was coming from. I said I have a disease, and everybody's like, and I was like, this disease can be contagious.
Mhm.
And they were like, oh my goodness, everybody in the room is like, oh my goodness, what's going on?
Okay,
Yeah,
COVID. Was this before or after COVID? After COVID.
this is not the COVID.
'Cause that hits differently now.
Right, that hits different. And I was like, I have this disease, and I mean, I wish I didn't have it. And so now everybody's kind of, I see their eyes. And I said, the disease is, I've been bit by the political bug. And once you get it, it's hard to lay it down. It really is. Um,
So explain that. I know you explained it a little bit earlier because depending on who's listening, that will depend on how it filters through their mind. So when you say that, you don't necessarily mean it, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't necessarily mean it politics just for politics' sake, for the notoriety. This is for you politics as service. And you want to do everything you can to be of service to the community or the county. Am I interpreting that correctly?
so my personal mission, everybody should have a personal mission. My personal mission is to help people find their purpose. When you help people find their purpose, the community rises because now everyone is doing what they were supposed to do. Everything is now firing on all of its cylinders. I want to do that through public policy, right? I've done it in the private sector, and I've done civic work. I've done services for the government and with the government. And so now I've been bit with that bug of, okay, how can we get from here to here? And once you've been given that answer and then you see it in motion. Now, notice I told you I already have a prepared professional in motion. When you're seeing that in motion and you see the fruits, and now you can go to a forum. I'll never forget. I went back to somebody who had so many doubts about the program that I
Hmm.
said, now talk to me. It's a different world. And now you realize I can affect so many lives if given the chance. In the economy, I have a big vision on, I believe that government now should be an entrepreneurial type government.
Okay. Okay.
And it should, you know, focus on those sectors that we really need to grow and allow citizens to invest. So, a quick example of that
Mhm.
is, let's say when Uber was coming up,
Right.
they're about to decentralize the transit community. Let's say that government invested. Let's say I was Prince George's County executive and I invested and I said, hey, community members, however many, families and professionals want to invest in this. And, let's say we gave a criteria of $1,200 or whatever it is. You can invest and we're going to put private and public money together and we're going to invest in Uber. Do you know where we would be today? We would be billions of dollars
Mhm.
and everyone would have made money from that. I see the government differently. I see that, we're always saying, I'm going to lower your taxes. Well, how about we just help people get in some of these deals that we're
Mhm.
doing? And we can expand our companies quicker and faster. Notice what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, see, I haven't put all these pieces together, but I'm talking about decentralization,
Mhm.
going with companies that are decentralizing whole systems, right? And allowing the government and the public to invest and make money. And then transforming our education system with a second pathway so that companies can now curate their own pipeline. That's an economy that now begins to grow and it grows beyond 4 or 6%. That's what Prince George's County is growing. You're now in the 25 and 40% GDP of growth, gross domestic product. You're now growing, right? Because the government is spending, right, in this investment. Companies now are investing more. Consumers are spending more because they're receiving more.
Mhm.
That's an economy that grows. And we're not just talking about minimum wage anymore. We're now talking about other headaches now that we're getting, right? Too
Mhm.
much influx of people. I'd rather have that issue. you know,
You think that would be a good problem to
that's a
have?
good problem, right? And so I'm big on decentralization, and I'm big on even where things are going now. We don't have to build data centers the way we're building them, because I'm in this sector. I understand it, and I understand that we can build a decentralized uh, cloud computing center
Mhm.
that's not now messing with our water, messing, with our environment, CO2 emissions, energy going up. I believe that there's a smarter and better way to do it where our citizens can make money now.
Okay.
Uh,
Explain. I saw an interview, a recent interview you did,
mhm.
and you were explaining this. So explain that here. Basically, the decentralization, each person would have a piece of technology in their home.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna try. Let me do this as simple as possible.
Okay.
Data centers are big warehouses that have racks and racks of servers.
Right.
That's a data center. AWS or any company like it, Google, they build these things and they'll spend 5 billion, 10 billion on it. And everybody's like, why are they spending 5 or 10 billion on it? Because
And then
that's
they're
their
going to use up
goal.
all our water
Well,
and make our electricity
but
bills
they got
go
to keep
up.
it cool, right? So the more of this technology you have in one place, you got to keep it cool,
Mhm.
right? So, because if if I don't know, 100 people come into your house, you got to keep it cool, right? So that's the same thing that is happening in these facilities.
I'm just thinking that's a whole lot of people breathing. So, okay, go ahead.
I try to explain these things real simple, right? So, however, there's lots of money being made because data is the new gold. It's the new oil. One server can make over $4,500 by itself. So imagine you have 5,000 servers in that data center, or you have, I don't know, 2,000. You're still making money. And so most people don't realize that, right? So I'm kind of giving you behind the scenes right now. What I'm suggesting is in Prince George's County, I have a proposal where people, if they want to come into is, and I've already written the bill. The bill is called the Prosperity Community Cloud Act. And it's not a data center. It's people who want to be in a part of this program, getting a device the size, something like this, to sit on their desk. It needs internet and it needs power and an APC unit for backup power on it. And that individual can make up to 500 a month, up to 6,000 a year, just participating. Companies that buy into this could get 3 or 4 devices, right? And now they're making up to 2 grand a year, right? I mean, not a year, sorry, 2 grand a month, right? So that's 24,000 for the year. Churches, you name it. But the government also put these devices in. And what I was explaining is Prince George's County would become the first cloud computing center that's decentralized amongst the people, where the people now make the money that the big boys are making. And we don't have the water issue. We don't have the CO2 emissions issue. And we don't have the energy issue. Because we all have devices this small,
Right.
and it's not breaking the bank at home in energy. However, what happens is we are now expanding what a quote unquote what cloud computing, a data center would be doing. But we're doing it in small little nodes, right? And everybody now can take part of that. And the government, in the first year, when we sat down and did my numbers based on the budget that they currently have, we would be bringing in $500 million just to the government.
Hmm.
And guess what? I just told you that everybody, so let's say about 40,000 families and young professionals in this program, they are making now more than what their property tax is. Property tax is 4,600 and some change on average in Prince George's County. Well, I'm not saying I'm going to lower your taxes and promising it. What I'm saying is I have a plan that would actually eliminate your property tax, right? That is how government should be thinking now. How do I help my citizens? Now, watch this. My vision for Prince George's County is to make it the East Coast Innovation Technology Hub for the world.
Okay.
In one swoop, I would have fixed that. Because now we're on notice, right? We put the world and the country on notice. This is where you have to do business, right? The second piece of this is now financial healing. People are now seeing government work for them, right?
Right.
And now the government has money to now do proper development in our county. Because right now we're growing at 4 and 6%. I'm talking about 25, 40% growth, right? And getting beyond that in our GDP. Well, once you start doing that, now you're making great deals. You're not leasing back the schools that were built. You're now creating an environment that our seniors' taxes can be lowered and we can take care of them the way they need to be taken care of. Our children are now coming up in an environment where they have opportunity, and you're creating wealth in Prince George's County now. Now we go back to where our greatness was, where it once was, right? And the last piece of this, and I guess I'm gonna go ahead and say it. We have a quantum computer here in the county, University
Hmm.
of Maryland. Imagine if we connected that quantum computer to the backbone of our cloud computing decentralized system for research and for security. We would become the #1 county in America overnight. Now, I'm not talking about anything that is a pipe dream. I'm talking about what I could do for our county tomorrow. And I've already written the bill.
Hmm.
We've already written our amendments so that because we know a budget is going in. And so I'm coming to say, I'm not offering you some ideas. I'm giving you a plan that we can do in the first 100 days that will change the trajectory of everybody.
Hmm.
Are you seeing what I'm painting?
Yeah, I see that. I
Yeah.
see that.
That's a different enterprise.
Hmm.
That's a different enterprise that
Doesn't
most
sound like
politicians.
anything that I've really heard.
Right. Well, and I told you I'm a different type of politician, and I see the world differently. And when you have someone like me coming in office who's been all about civic, helping people, I'm going to be thinking, how can I help people? Because most people would say, why are you giving that to the people? Let's just do that internally, make all the money. Industries make money, right? Everybody's making money, and we'll give tax cuts. Well, come on. I think there's enough money to go around
Mhm.
where people can be a part of this process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether
So
they like it or not, we are a part of the process, whether or not we're brought into it or not. Government does not exist without the people.
government does not
Period.
exist. And let me be clear because somebody said online that guy is going to bring in the data centers, and they're going to, he's going to move in a way that is not productive for us.
Mhm.
I've already said, and I've gone on record, I'm not bringing in another data center. I don't believe that we should go that route. I just expressed a new route
Mhm.
that doesn't give us all of the harmful things that you're saying that you don't want. But here's the things that we have because data centers are not going away. Let's just know that. And AI is not going away. Quantum computing is not going away. And innovation is not going away. And counties that do not innovate are going to get left behind. All of the economy is headed towards innovation and technology. And if you do not put that into play in your economy, you're about to get left behind. Period. Full stop.
And that's what you don't want. You
That's
do
what you
not
don't
want.
want. So, how do we do it smart? How do we get around all of your? I heard you, Prince George's County. You don't want data centers and you do not want high property tax and income tax. I heard you. So, this plan is one stone that I put in a slingshot that knocks all three of those things out.
Another question. This is about things that are going right in Prince George's County because politicians run on
Mhm,
change a lot
mhm,
and
mhm,
respect.
mhm.
What do you think is going right in the county that you want to continue to build on?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh my goodness, that's a good question. That's a tough one. I'm not saying nothing is going right. I think teachers really, there's some good teachers out there.
Mhm.
That's going in the right direction. I believe we're trying to get our policing right. So I will say that. I believe firefighters, our first responders have been working through a tough hole, with the economy not being right and with all of this stress on the system, they've had to deal with an awful lot. And a lot of our teens dropping out of school, our first responders, social workers, all the way, to the police officers have had to deal with. Because I've spoken to our police officers and I've talked to them about the prepared professional. And they're like, we believe that that would be a strong program because it gets them off the street. It's a summer program as well. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I believe it's time for us to have those type of programs that get our kids off the street. So what's been going right? We've been helping in certain sectors, and good people have been brought in. So I would say that's what's going right. We have all the intellectual capital that we need here. That's been going in the right direction.
Okay, we just need to do a few things differently to
We need better
help the county
leadership.
reach its full potential.
There you go.
Is that what I'm?
That's what, and it starts from the top. Most people don't understand the county executive role is more than management, managing the county, and more than keeping us safe. The county executive, if you look it up, is the CEO of the county. That means you got to cast vision. That means that businesses are under your purview. Hospitals are under your purview. All services are under your purview. And so you have to have a vision. I just told you mine. And that vision then means excellence, because that's what we're pushing for. You can't bring in and be the innovation technology of the world and not push for excellence, right? So I think we have to do a better job. And it starts from the top. No more musical chairs, you
What do you mean
know.
by musical chairs?
Well, our county council just went through a whole big musical chair move around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this person left this job and then this person assumed that job, all from within, right? So are we going to see change? Are we going to see something new? No, it's the same people. You know, I believe that new blood is often needed, not often, it's always needed, even in our bodies. It's constantly, making new blood. We have to bring in new blood if we want change and we want better services.
So the type of leader that you are, I'm not going to say that you will be because you already are,
That's right. That's what
and
my
you have
parents taught
been.
me.
You run a
There,
company, you lead people,
there you go.
and you've been leading in other ways. So how would you describe your leadership style in
Hmm.
3 words?
3 words.
Mhm. Okay, 4 if you need, but 3.
I'll do it. Consistent, concise, um, well, I said consistent,
Consistent,
concise,
concise.
and persistent.
Okay. Tell me about a time you had to do something unpopular, like an unpopular decision. Because if you're a county executive, you're going to be making,
Um,
somebody's not going to like what you're doing, no matter what, even if it's the
I,
best thing.
I
And what did
agree
you
with
learn from
you.
that unpopular decision?
I can think of a couple ones. I'm gonna use when I was a candidate for the U.S. Senate.
Okay.
In a forum, I was asked the same question, like, what would you go against the party with about, and this would be deeply unpopular. And I brought up minimum wage.
Mhm.
I said I would not waste all my time fighting for minimum wage. And obviously in that room it was like, oh,
Oh, no.
ooh, what is he saying? And I was
Right.
saying that I believe that there are a lot of jobs in America. If you do the numbers on how many unfilled jobs, there's enough jobs to fill. I mean, there's enough. We have people that can fill those jobs. And we're talking beyond minimum wage. We're talking about transforming one's life. Minimum wage was never meant for somebody to live on. And that's what I said in that forum. Minimum wage is for, a teenager, or you're in college, right? And you're going to get some experience, and and should it be raised? Now, there's some areas where minimum wage, especially on the federal side, is too low. It's too low. But I'm just saying, we spent 30, 40 years fighting for this when we could have spent that time getting our people certified.
Okay. So you said minimum wage should be for teenagers. Just thought of something that you said a little bit earlier. You
And
are all
and
for
in
make,
college,
sorry?
in college, folks.
Yes, and college people.
Yeah, mhm,
And so what about returning citizens? Because you mentioned returning citizens.
mhm,
The normal pathways might not necessarily be open to them because if you check that box that says you committed a felony,
mhm.
then some opportunities might not be available to you.
Great,
So,
great question.
what would be,
Uh,
as county executive, and the
mhm,
power, say if you are elected county executive, and the
mhm,
power that you would have,
mhm.
how would you use that to help returning citizens be able to get into a job that's beyond a minimum wage job?
So earlier I said the prepare professional is in our school system, but
Right.
I also said it affects returning citizens.
Okay.
Um, there are Fortune 500 companies and small businesses that currently hire returning citizens, provided that they have a certification and they know what they're doing. The reason why I'm saying this is because we've been thinking too small. Companies need to make money. They want to grow. And if you can show a company that this citizen who was, being rehabilitated, it's a good model inmate, received the certification, and and can have some good references, they'll hire them. Now, somebody would then ask me, well, all of them? Well, if they all want to truly rehabilitate themselves, companies are ready to hire them. Fortune 500 companies, companies that are building big, massive buildings, will hire them and bring them on board because, they need more HVAC, certified individuals just working on that project. There's so many jobs out there that these individuals can go after and not make minimum wage. And
And
nor
that
should they, because
that's part of the prepared professionals,
that's part of the
that which is
prepared for.
already in place.
There you go. I've sparred and had deep intellectual conversations with elected officials about this, and everybody has their ideas. And so my thing was just go start it. Don't, we can in the laboratory, everybody, oh, should we put this and that in? Well, let's just go put it up. And what I'm seeing is there is room for growth. The biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. And we can improve on how we rehabilitate and how do we get them in jobs and in affordable housing. And I have a plan for all of that. So, again, I don't want somebody coming out of prison going into a minimum wage job. They're going to be back in prison. I mean, yeah, I have enough friends. I know enough people. I'm not removed, even in my family, I'm not removed from individuals getting in trouble and going back to prison.
Mhm.
And so, and they'll tell you, I mean, I got out for what?
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, what did I get out for? This feels like prison.
Wow.
No, I've heard those statements. You know, especially in minimum wage. So think about it. You have to report to your probation officer, especially if you were let out early. You're doing a minimum wage job, so you feel like you're not really getting ahead, and then you have to look for housing, right? And if you burn so many bridges, that becomes a thing. What do you have in prison? You have housing, you have food, and you have a system that keeps you, moving. And so if you're feeling like out of prison feels like that, then you're just going to end up going back. And I know people who have returned to prison because they felt like out here feels like prison. So now, but if you can show them a vision, right?
Mhm.
What do you
Mm,
want to do?
mhm.
Well, I want to be an athletic coach or, you know, okay, well, here's the path to that. That's a certification. You know, well, I don't have my GED. You don't need your GED. Follow this path. Let's get you customer service certifications. There's so many things that they can be doing that make them become a professional, make them be seen in a different light. And I know several gyms that will hire them, you know? So I guess my point is I think a little different. And I think I come from the business sector as well. I come from the civic sector, worked in government and for government. So I'm seeing it all. And I'm like, we can do this better. We can do this better. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Yes,
Okay.
you did. We could do
Okay.
this better. And then some. And I like the and then some.
Okay.
So
Okay.
now there's a thing about government and transparency. What are
Yes.
you going to do to intentionally, because I don't think transparency just happens. I think it has to be something intentional. Because if you're working for the people, this is just my imagination. I imagine you working for the people day in, day out. You have to be intentional about letting them know what's going on and being transparent. If elected, what would you do?
The first directive executive order I would put out to all the agencies is that within so much time, we have to be transparent. If somebody wants to know how much was spent on X or what is happening with this program, or what's happening with all of the funding, what's with the budget, we have so much time to put that out and be very clear, and everybody's given that information. Because what happens is we try to hide things. And when you hide things, and that becomes a cover up, and that gets worse. My thing is just put it out there. And then you're asking the people to give you some time to fix it, right? I believe that I'm not just getting elected. I am your son. I am your cousin. I'm your next door neighbor. I'm one of you. It is time for efficiency, and we have to be transparent. Predictability and stability. That all has to be there. And I'm not just in office, you're in office with me. So as much as I can show you, I will show you. And we have to be intentional about that. So that's my first directive. The other
Mhm.
thing is every program that I start or I'm working on, I have to, you know, give, tell them what's happening. Let's say I start a program and it's going a little slower than I would like. Well, maybe I need the public's help. So let's just get it out there and tell them. But I can tell you this, because I have a vision, you will know what I will die for. When we don't know what the vision is, we don't know what you're gonna die for. We
Mhm.
don't know what you're gonna say, listen, come whatever, come what may, I'm going to fight for this. Well, you now know I'm about to go fight for the future of this county. I'm going to fight for our kids. I'm going to fight for prosperity. I'm going to fight for money coming into your pocket. I'm going to fight for lowering property and income tax. I'm going to fight for all of these things because that's what my plan is, right? So I'm going to happily update you on that fight and tell you what's going on so that you can help me fight the good fight because people change the government, not one politician.
Okay, so this is a question that I've asked before in other areas of my life. And I heard you talk about this on this other podcast that people feel disconnected from local government. They go the big election every 4 years, the presidential election.
Mhm.
Maybe you pay attention to, you probably pay attention to your senators, maybe your house members, house representatives, but the
Mhm.
people in the
That
state
happens.
legislature,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, you may or may not know who your representative is, and definitely, not the people who represent you on the in the county level.
Mhm.
Um, how are you? Because from what I hear, you are boots on the ground and knocking on doors. How are you encouraging residents to engage more locally? Because a whole lot happens on the local level that people discount in favor of national elections. Not to say that any of them
Mhm.
is less important or more important than the other. I think they all work together, you know,
No,
they
you're
all
right.
work together.
Mhm.
But, the local elections kind of get the short shrift.
They get the short stick.
Yeah.
Um, what I've been doing, because I have to, is educate about what this job is. Because for so long we've been hiring people without a vision, casting a vision, and it's become management. And so I am now out. Now, what I'm finding is people are mad. They're upset and they are receptive now. A leader in the county said this to me when they asked me to jump in this race as well. They said people are receptive now to your message, so you're going to find that. And I have to admit they are. It is easier now to say to them, listen, the county executive job is a CEO job. It's not a, it's just not getting in there and just managing. It's someone who's casting a vision and telling you where we're going. It's no different from the governor's job. It's just for the county. And so people are very receptive. So I'm educating them on if you want less property tax, income tax, if you want less fines going around the county, if you want more wellness centers, if you want more hospitals, if you want more urban community walkable commerce centers, and less us spending all of our time and energy on that one child. If we liken the county to a family, that one
Mhm.
child, the harbor. Harbor's getting everything. What else you want? Son or daughter, I got you. Uh,
And you're not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. You're just saying there are other children too.
you're right. I'm saying you're right. I'm saying as a family does not get ahead just giving everything to the one kid. Family gets ahead when everybody is rising, right? And so remember my mission. My mission is to help everyone find their purpose. Every municipality has a purpose. And so you need to help them find that purpose. You need to spend more time with the mayor. My leadership style and transparency is going to show the mayors that they are my governors. And we have to spend more time together and work these projects that need to get done. And you'll see me die on the vine for that project because I know what it will bring based on the vision.
Hmm. And it goes
Mm.
back to vision. Everything goes back to vision, like you
Everything,
were saying.
listen, West Philly, that's not near me, is still not finished.
Mhm.
But if you knew what the vision was and you knew what it would bring to the county based on that vision, then you would die on the hill. You'll spend your last dollar because you know it's worth it. That's my leadership style.
So now I'm going to go from there to advice for future leaders.
Mm.
Because whether a person is in Prince George's County, Maryland, or they're in a different county in Maryland, or they're anywhere in the United States or wherever they are,
Mhm.
um, what would you tell someone who is thinking about running for public office, but they're not quite sure? Maybe they're not quite clear on their vision. Maybe they know they have something to contribute, but they're just not quite there yet. That person who has an interest, what would you say to them?
I would say know your why. I mean, you kind of hit it. You have to know your why because your why will guide you everywhere you're going to go, right? If your why is money, if your why is prestige, if your why at the end of the day is mass over, I just want to help people, but really I want notoriety, then and be true to yourself, what that why is. I'd rather you be true to yourself than to lie to yourself about your why. So my advice would be first to know your why because people can read you. When you walk in the room, I've had people say to me, I can tell that you have integrity, or I can tell that you mean what you say, you're passionate about, because I know my why. And you're not going to get me on some money thing. That's not going to get me. That's not going to excite me. How does that translate back to the people? What's going to excite me. Because at the end of the day, I'm here to serve. And so you have to know your why. So that would be my true advice. No, dig deep. If you have to take a character assessment, I've done all of that. Go take a character assessment. Know your love language. All of these things are important. Then sit down with those closest to you and see how close those assessments line up with how other people see you. And if you find a disconnect, then you now know you got to change something. And you now know your weaknesses, right? And so you got to sit down and do that. Know your why. It's not just, what's my why? No, take these assessments. You'll find out your why real quick.
So knowing your why would actually get you in contact with who you are as a person,
There
get you
you go.
closer. And
There,
that's part of it as well, sounds like.
that's right.
Okay, this will be the final one before I ask you the final question and before you come up with yours. Okay.
Okay.
What qualities do you believe are non-negotiable for leadership, no matter where you are? It could be in politics, it could be in the boardroom, it could be in a classroom, it could be neighborhood association. What qualities do you feel are non-negotiable
Oh,
for
that's
solid
plural.
leadership?
Oh, that's plural. Okay. Um, integrity, accountability. You have to be someone who can take charge. Um, you know, especially if you're going to lead. Nobody's going to follow somebody who don't know how to take charge. Um, Someone who think about others before themselves. These are not non-negotiables for me. You got to think about others before you're just thinking about yourself. And somebody who knows their why. These are non-negotiables for me. If you know your why and you have integrity and accountability and you want to truly serve people, then I think you're on the right track for government service, which is public service.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question. This
Mhm.
question is from a previous guest
Mm.
named Katrina, and she
Okay.
started an organization focused on caregiver support. And she has like a whole story. She helped care for her husband, who ended up passing away from pancreatic cancer. And during his journey, his illness, they started this organization called Inspire One. So it's her question. And I also think it's an important question for someone who's hoping to run an entire county with, I think, roughly like a million or so residents, a little bit less than a
Close
million
to, we should
residents.
have been over a million, but yes,
So
900 something thousand. Yeah.
if you round it up, it's like a million. So here's a question from Katrina.
How do you show up for yourself every day?
Ooh, Katrina, that's a really good question. For me, I have to spend time with Yeshua. And for those who don't know, that was Christ's true name. Yeshua, some say Yeshua. But I have to spend time with him. He grounds me because I believe that my mission is bigger than just what's happening here. I'm kingdom building. My goal is to bring the love that he wants us to have to each and every individual. So if I'm not spending time with him, that means I'm unrooting myself. And now I am now acceptable to the evils of this world. You know, every day I say, deliver me from evil, right? Lead me not to temptation.
Mhm.
Every day, every morning, every night, and we spend our time. So I'm rooted in him. And that's not for everybody. And that's fine. Everybody has to have their thing. But for me, he told me my why. He told me what I'm doing right now and why. And he gave me my platform. And, you know, I can't ask for anything better than that. So I have to serve him. So that's where I get rooted.
And then your question for the
Mm.
next guest.
My question would be, have you taken the time out to write out your mission statement? And if you have, what is it? If you have not, then I implore you to take the time out and figure out what is your mission statement so that you can tell people what it is. And then it helps guide every decision you make.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. Is there anything that you'd like to express that I did not ask you?
That's a good question. Um, trying to make sure I didn't get myself in trouble. Um, um, yeah, I want to say this. My video says it, but I'm gonna add to it. You know, I'm a candidate because I feel most people in this county feel unseen, unheard, and blocked from opportunity. My mom, who's over 80, it was the first time she ever sat me down and said, I think you need to run for office, son. Now, the first time I came to her,
Oh,
but
for
this
the Senate
time
campaign?
for right for the Senate campaign. But this time, now that I'm a candidate, she came to me and said this. So this fight is for her. I am a new dad. My son is a little bit over 3 months now, and I'm fighting for him as well. And obviously my wife and my family, but I want him to come up and see Prince George's County the way I first saw it. It was just this county up on a hill, shining bright to America and to the world that Black excellence is here. I want him to feel and see that as he's matriculating through. I want him to be able to say, Daddy, this is the best place. I've traveled, we've gone around to other counties and other states, but this is where it's at, Daddy. I want him to see that. And I'm being very honest. If there was another candidate in the race that sounded like me, that had the right vision, I would get behind that candidate. I would get behind that candidate because I know that that candidate means well. At the end of the day, all of our plans, whether they're great or not that great, they have to stand on something, some principles. And mine, I would want somebody to serve that has my type of principles, who truly care about people. And during COVID, I took a big pay cut for my staff. Why? Because we were not getting the money that we were getting before. And my staff can speak to that. I'm about people. And so I just want people to know that I am truly your neighbor, your son, your cousin, your nephew, your uncle. And I'm not, running for office because I want this job just to have it. I'm because I'm speaking. Judge me not on being in office or not, but judge me on the content of my character, my plan, my vision, and my know how to get it done. And the fact that I'm gonna have a budget. I'm gonna have bills ready to go that I'll show you before even getting into office.
Just thought of this question. Say things don't work out the way you would like them to,
Hmm.
because the primary is coming up. So say
Hmm.
things don't work out in the primary how
Hmm.
you would like them to.
Hmm.
What are you going to do to continue to help the county?
Well, I'm already doing those things, right? The point is, I'm not going to stop my mission, but in terms of where I go with some of these big ticket items, they will probably end up in other places that are receptive to them. Well, because I'm Prince George's County. I'm speaking directly to you right now. There are other counties that want what I am pushing right now. They are ready for it. They're like, bring it on because they see where it would take them. I'm not pushing it there. I'm coming to my own. I live in this county. I want to see us become the first county that is revolutionary, bringing in money and taking and helping citizens make the funds that they need because some are in foreclosure right now. They want relief. They want help. They want a vision for their kids and their kids' kids. And that's why I am in this race as a candidate. So, uh, you know, I need your support.
Thanks so much for listening to Planet Noun, where it's all about the people, places, things, and ideas that teach us, prompt us to make a difference, and do more with what life presents. You can learn more about Marcellus Cruise at marcelluscruise.com. You can also find the link on Planet Noun on Substack. Thank you once again for listening and for sharing this episode. Until next time, take care.